Good morning. This is Talking Devils, your favourite Manchester United podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Barton, joined as always by Manchester United legend Paul Parker to talk over uh, a week where we're only going to be talking about a win because we played one game and we won it. So, a novelty in this season for United. How are you doing, Paul? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Wayne. Not bad
Good,
at all.
good year at West Ham yesterday.
Yeah, I was there working at that game, and it was poor. Poor. The first half was poor because Aston Villa, for some unknown reason, was so negative. I was so disappointed with Stephen Gerrard because Stephen Gerrard's side, just about him as a player, and how I'd seen Villa previously, and then you start, you just want to see them have a go because they've got a lot of good players. Coutinho was playing as a deep midfield player. McGinn was playing virtually like a right back position. They didn't want
Mm.
to score. All they wanted to do is every time they were touched was go down holding their heads and stopping the game. And it's absolutely amazing when you go a goal behind and players want to stay on their feet and start moaning about situations when the other team slow down. But West Ham got what they deserved in the end, which is a good hard fought win with a
Yeah.
big game on Thursday.
Yeah, a few this week. A lot of games this week. If you're watching the podcast on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you are watching on YouTube and Facebook, feel free to get your questions in. If you're watching the replay, still say hello in the comments and feel free to comment because we do reply to those. Yeah, before we talk about the game against Spurs, first off, I want to just mention the passing of Franco Farrell. He died last week. Felt a little bit disappointed, Paul, that the club didn't hold a minute silence for him. I know they wore black armbands, and it was mentioned. Alan Keegan mentioned it on the channel
West
before
Ham
kickoff.
did.
Was that? Yeah, West
West
Ham
Ham,
did. Yeah, West Ham
yeah,
definitely out.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean that's yeah.
surprising that United didn't really do much about it. To be fair, I've written something about him that it was many months ago that I wrote about that, but I put it in the description to this podcast. So once you've listened to us, give it a check back. Yeah, Franco Farrell took charge of United 1971 after Busby's second retirement, so to speak, when he came out after Wilf McGuinness's sacking. So Farrell was manager at Leicester beforehand. Um, Kind of like the David Moyes appointment. They'd gone for that young British coach, although O'Farrell's an Irishman. He came with Malcolm Musgrove, a trainer, very highly rated pair, to be fair, in terms of British coaching. And to be fair, the first 4 or 5 months in charge with Frank were brilliant. George Best played some of his best football. Some of the most memorable George Best goals that you've seen came under the Franco Farrell era. The hat trick against West Ham, where he dazzled past Bobby Moore. The goal against Sheffield United, where he took on everyone. The hat trick at Southampton as well. A lot of great goals in there, but unfortunately, because the problems in the side were so big, he needed to replace the defence. George was missing training. Bobby and Dennis were getting on as well, and all these problems were happening at the same time. And Frank, to be fair, he took a lot of that on himself. And Paddy Crerand talks about Frank. He basically says he came as a stranger and left as a stranger. So he was in charge for 18 months, sacked after United lost 5-0 at Palace on they'd gone from basically top of the table to fighting relegation in the space of 12 months. I wouldn't say that's Frank's doing. There were a lot of problems at the club at the time. But yeah, everyone that I've spoke to about Frank, including Sammy McElroy, who Frank gave his debut, only says really nice things about him as a person. They say he was a complete gentleman, and if you see anything about Frank, there's a documentary I think that is actually on YouTube about him, and we obviously I did something when we made Too Good to Go Down. We concentrated on that era with Frank as well. He was a good man, a good manager. Unfairly really tainted by his time at Old Trafford, but a lot of managers are like that and remembered for what happened. But yeah, a man of tremendous dignity and class, and a sad loss, and just feel a little bit sad that United didn't mark that with a little bit more respect. Maybe they'll do it tomorrow night, but they really should have been done on Saturday. We got a comment in from Ben tomorrow, wondering if we're better off without Fernandez given his performances or antics. Well, we'll come to Athletic Madrid in good time. But yeah, it's a question that we can definitely ask. We should start off talking about the game against Spurs. And again, I think maybe reserve special praise for Ronaldo a little bit later, but we'll talk about the game because the games are running out now, and teams are picking up wins. Chelsea won, Arsenal won again. You are waiting the potential repercussions of what happens with Chelsea's financial situation, how that might impact the top four. United simply had to concentrate on their own game of the weekend, Paul. They had to get on with get back to winning ways, really. And some of those flaws that we know, they were definitely present, and they did come back to hurt United a few times. But we have spent enough time analysing those flaws. But we know Harry Maguire. We know everything about him, and we can talk about the bad own goal, or we can talk about the volleyed back pass, which give me palpitations. But we know that now about Maguire. So let's look at what we did do when we won 3-2. Look on the bright side of it. Rangnick said in the build-up to the game, I think it's about time we started learning from the mistakes and performances. But I think it's probably too late to say that about this squad. We do also know they're equally capable of putting together good performances and good runs of form, and that's what they need to do from now to the end of the season. They needed to win on Saturday, and they needed to play an entertaining game. I can't say, I'm not hot, even though we won, that it was a thoroughly convincing performance. We scored 3 goals, but it looked like Ronaldo was the only one who was going to score for us. So he was definitely the difference. I thought Sancho was pretty good. I thought Fred was magnificent. But even when you are saying Ronaldo is the difference, a team is still 11 players, and those 11 players won the game. And what they did show, Paul, is a resilience to keep going for the full game, right? That's certainly fairly new under Rangnick because, yes, we've won late on before, but this time they actually dealt with 2 setbacks and they kept going and they won the game late on. An entertaining game, Paul, and a crucial win.
Yeah, it was entertaining, but not the entertaining you would expect from 2 major names in the top division of English football. It was entertaining on the up, just the amount of non-pressured mistakes given, when given the ball away, it was sloppy. How many times did Son fall over? He just kept slipping out. Even I kind of think, what's going on here? You do it once or twice, and I think that Sir Alex, if you did that once or twice, I think he'll drag you off. He'll tell you, he'll say to you, you haven't prepared properly. That's what he'll say. You haven't done your work when you go out and warm up. You're doing your twisting and turning. You must know if you've got the right footwear on. So that was one of the disappointing points of Spurs. With United, it was a reasonably good 20, 25 minutes, but then it just sloppy again. There's just no great second half performance. They've been like that all season, to be perfectly honest. There isn't no discipline in their play still, in that sense of just getting control of a game, trying to do something positive with it. And the moment they went 1-0 up, you never felt that they was going to be able to keep it. They went 2-1 up. They allowed Spurs then, no different to Man City. They were like Man City without the quality. They allowed them to get back in the game. Whatever happens, if you allow someone to get to, and it was happening in the first half on the left-hand side between Harry Maguire and Telles. How many times did they get to the byline and poor decisions cost Spurs? The final ball. They've done it so many times, and you think, it's coming. You can always see it's coming. And I look at the second goal, and I know we're going to go more, but just the fact of Harry Maguire, it started with him and finished with him. Because pulling back on the shirt. He's pulling back, he's defending his outside of his box, he's pulling back on someone's shirt. Just do your work, move your feet. Just do that. Don't pull on shirts and give fouls away or try to attempt. But it was shocking. And then all of a sudden the ball goes out on the left-hand side, and then all of a sudden he's putting the ball in the back of the net. I think that's why Romero had a go at him after he scored. He's had a go at him, but defence is still a massive problem. There's too many teams break through them easy, and the easy way to come out and say, it's about the midfield. Yes, the midfield's poor. It was better. Fred was the best player on the pitch, in my opinion, just by everything he'd done. He made a difference to United in that midfield because he's got energy and he will when there's yards in front of him, he will make a foray into those yards with the ball at his feet. Is he one of the best in the league at doing that? Nowhere near it. Is he one that wants to do it? Yes, he does want to do it. You wouldn't see anyone else doing it. You wouldn't see Fernandes running with the ball like that. He'd be looking to try and knock a big 30, 40 yarder. Scott McTominay couldn't do that in a million years. It's not in his locker. But then you think, so going back to it, you're looking for a defensive shield. That's still not there. But even then, I must say, Wayne, that when you employ people as defenders, every now and again, or quite a lot, you're going to be asked to defend in 1-against-1 situations, and you would expect your defenders of Manchester United to be able to deal with it 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
You know, and I played with, maybe when you speak to people keep saying about Brucey, he was slow. I would just say about Brucey, he wasn't the quickest centre half. So, I mean, because it'd be a disservice if I said he was slow, because no one went past him that easy.
Yeah,
they didn't go past him.
His positioning was brilliant. His positioning.
Yeah, but he was just clever. He just got himself in such good areas. And I'll tell you what, he had ways of stopping people, and it looked like an accident. You know, he just had a way of doing it, put his body in the way of people. You wouldn't see him pulling at people's shirt because they can't get near him, or they've cheated on their defending and cheated on their starting position. He wouldn't be doing that. And it's just disappointing to see so many players, and more so Manchester United's players, namely Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire, pulling and fighting at people all the time, when you know in theory that football is becoming less and less non-contact.
Yeah.
Less and less a contact game, I should say. So you got to be better than that now. You must have learned something, and they're just not doing it. So United, as much as that has been going, because that game was equivalent to the previous fixture, the fact of United got smashed 5-0 by Liverpool going into that game last time. If you remember at White Hart Lane.
Yeah.
And, you know, and the game then was quite tepid. It was a tale of 2 poor teams, and this one was very similar to that in certain ways. So what United have done more than anything is, after the embarrassment of the second half, where they couldn't be bothered to run around and just wanted the game over and done with, they've got a win, which is a bonus, because they needed a win to go into the game against Atletico Madrid.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. They definitely needed that, because it didn't get that. The press would have been, you know, everyone would have been kind of almost named and shamed, and that's given them breathing space before this game.
Yeah. Very quickly before we move on to Ronaldo, the penalties. Right, there's a lot of people are saying that they shouldn't have been given that, but I thought both were pens, to be honest. What did you think?
I thought that the one with Eric Dyer, and I think Eric Dyer never been a more apt name, really, to be perfectly honest. I don't think that's handball. For the simple reason is, no, because it's a balance thing. You're on about arms, and he's stretching forward. So as you're stretching forward, as you're stretching, stick your leg out, your legs are moving forward, you're leaning back, you put your arms out to counteract the fact of going back. Otherwise, you go back, it'd be a cartoon moment if you did. You know, if you're on about a natural position of your arms is not down by your side when you're stretching forward. It's impossible, because all you're going to do is just roll over. You know, and people have got to relate to themselves, try it themselves. Try and almost slide forward without putting your arms back, because you want your arms in that position to stop you falling over and maybe dislocating your shoulder or something. So that's not a penalty to me, and that was the right decision. And one would tell us, your arm's up there, and your arms should never, there's no reason for his arms to be up there. That's an easy one. That's the thing a goalkeeper does, not a left back when he's trying to defend, you know. So, I mean, we've done it now, but you're just going to get into it. And this is the problem now, what's happening with defending, because people are scared of defending. They're not trusting the system at the moment. Ronaldo's first goal, and again, it's that man with maybe the most apt name in football, Eric Dyer. Instead of Ronaldo scores his goal for the first time this season, they're not gone close to him. And that's a massive, he needs that. He needs that now, because he's good with his finishing. He sees it. The old adage, he's got an eye for goal. So he's got that room in front of him. Spurs players have not decided instantaneously to go out to him. He's just gone bang. what you see is Eric Dyer standing there in front of him. Instead of working to go towards him, he decides to stand there and he has his arms behind his back. One, he's outside the box. Two, he's trying to shuffle forward with his arms behind his back. He was like a poor man's speed skater. It was terrible. So I think defenders have got to got to try and trust the system and say, I'm going to close down, so I'm going to have my arms down by my side as you would do. Your arms wouldn't be out there, and I'm going to get close and I'm going to try and block the shot. If it hits my arm, the referee and the assistant referee and the people in the broom cupboard at Heathrow are going to see that I'm defending. I'm in a position where my arms are reasonably close to my body, but I'm going to block the shot. His arms are behind him. Because if he goes out and Ronaldo goes into him and Ronaldo feints to shoot, and he's got his arms behind his back, and Ronaldo takes it, how is he going to get across there? Because he hasn't got his arms to move. Yeah. So it's a big problem at this moment in time for defenders, and it's an easy excuse to throw up about defending. Everyone, tell us he's got no excuse. Rangnick he'll say exactly the same. The Tottenham one was definitely a penalty. He might want to call out the one that maybe United should have had, but I don't think he's really got a case for that. So the problem is defenders need to trust the system and believe, or to be honest, let's get it right. People have to decide to start defending properly again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're well qualified to talk about that. Absolutely. And then you're right, defensively continues to be a mess, but on both sides. But I mean, let's not take away from the quality of the finishing. Let's talk about Ronaldo then, because yes, there are problems. Yes, he might not have been Ollie's preference when you're looking at if you'd have given him a choice of a midfielder or a striker, he would have probably gone with a midfielder. Yes, he hasn't exactly suited a team that plays like we do and doesn't cross in the way that he's used to doing. But good grief, Paul, sometimes when a player puts in not necessarily a performance, but when all of their experience and they're like a little bit of a force of nature, that's what we've seen with Ronaldo sometimes this season, mostly in the Champions League, but certainly again on Saturday. You just have to marvel at it sometimes, don't you? Cantona, it's exactly the same kind of thing. Like, he would disappear from games and then he'd pop up and make the difference. Obviously, a more crucial moments than what we've seen this season from Ronaldo, but Ronaldo, we can easily put him in the Cantona bracket. And sometimes when you're not winning trophies, all right, but you've got a chance of winning 3 trophies a season. The likelihood is you're not going to win one every season. And even a club like United, it's still, we get spoiled, but still football is about moments and it's about making history. And that's what he did on Saturday. First goal, an absolute screamer. I know that you're right, Dyer needs to be blocking him down, but the quality of the strike is just breathtaking, isn't it? And in a way, it's like it's its own thing that you're used to it from Ronaldo, which is a thing in itself, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything. The goals that Ronaldo scored the way they all occurred is the way that United haven't been doing that all season.
Yeah.
Forget the first one was just about Tottenham and how poor they are and the reason why they've got problems. They've got maybe the first or second best manager in Europe at this moment in time in Conte. But he's struggling. He's having issues with Daniel Levy. He's not been able to manage in a way he wants to manage that team and get what he wants. But he's trying to make the best of a bad bunch. No different to what's happening at Manchester United.
Yeah.
But you're looking then, so he's not getting back what he wants. So most of the games that he has played, Ronaldo, he has never had that much room that far from goal. Yeah. Always someone in and around, and he's having to run away with the ball. And he's trying to drop off to find space. Those teams are going, no. We know he can't really run behind as he used to. We know all his strengths, so we know that we cannot still afford to give him, try and disrespect how old he is. But Tottenham did. They allowed him that space to shoot. And to be honest, that's the first real time you've seen Ronaldo try and hit one like that, because he's never really had the space. And when he has had the opportunity, someone has always been breathing down his neck, and he's always been under pressure. He's had enough time to set that right, get his head up and go bang. Now, if Ronaldo can't do that from there, then Ronaldo isn't Ronaldo that everyone knows. But there we are, bang, done.
Yeah,
Paul
brilliant goal.
Parker eat a bit of humble pie. But the other two goals were all about what Manchester United haven't been doing with Ronaldo and the team and what they should have been doing. I mean, we saw it once in the first half, and Telles has hit off his left foot, almost by the touchline, this incredible cross. And you could just see the whip on it. The way that ball was just virtually just like it was like a lasso. The ball was like virtually almost coming back the other side. It might have gone 3-4 yards back the other way if it had gone over Ronaldo's head. It was fantastic. Yeah. And Ronaldo's, you watch his movement, and he does that. The moment someone gets the ball and he thinks they're in the crossing position, that's when he does his move. But 99 times out of 100, or 999 times out of 1,000, the cross never comes in. So he gets annoyed, and then he's got to start again. And at the moment, he's not one of them who wants to start again. Yeah. That isn't really there, which you would expect. Yeah. The annoyance is there, and the frustration then comes out. And we've seen all the bits then what you don't really want to see from a senior pro of that standard. But Luke Shaw's never done that in a million years.
Yeah.
Never done it. Never lifts his head to do that. All he's bothered out, head down, run, play wide, run into the hole that you want a Sancho running with the ball himself. Luke Shaw fills that hole, maybe more that hole than anyone else. He doesn't do it. He won't deliver a ball early. And an early cross is always better than a delayed great cross.
Yeah.
Just because defenders aren't set. They're not set properly to do things in certain ways. But if someone delays it, they're set. He's not getting the movement, and you can deal with someone 20 foot. Me at 5'7" up against someone 20 foot. If people delay the cross, I can get close. I can block the run. But you knock it early, I've got no chance. No chance. Doesn't matter how big that person is. Even if I'm bigger than that person, which was a rarity. But if I can't deal with it, then all of a sudden, size is a problem. So the two goals come about because they've got Ronaldo in the right areas facing the goal. And if he's facing the goal and the ball's in and around him, he's generally going to hit the target, isn't he?
Yeah. Sancho looks like his decision-making is getting better, and that proved with the second goal. Simple one this time. But still, even with the simplest goal, there's a bit of history because he becomes the leading goal scorer in the history of the men's sport. 806 goals. It's remarkable. I mean, take it away from the actual goal a moment because it was simple enough. But for a player who was a winger for the first few years of his career, for the first 3 seasons, didn't look like a goal scorer at all, to have gone on this journey where he's become the top scorer of all time. I'm talking like in the context of a season where, all right, we've not done very well, but you've seen him come back, and we've seen these last-minute winners, and you've seen elements of this greatness, and now you've seen the products of that greatness, and you've got an actual record that we also broken, which is, I'm not saying it's as good as winning a title, but it's still a little piece of history that we've witnessed, and you've just got to marvel at it. I mean, someone who's scored that many goals, we take it for granted a little bit. Like you were saying earlier, like Ronaldo does what Ronaldo does. You almost expect it of him, but it's a level of, and you've seen how difficult it is to move out of your comfort zone with Messi this season, and that's if they're the two players that you mentioned in the same breath. So you move one player away, and Ronaldo's done that like 3 or 4 times and come back into the league. He's not the same Ronaldo of old, but that number, Paul, 806, 807 now, it's something else, isn't it? I mean, when you're growing up, and we were, when you were playing and when I was watching the game when you were younger, we were watching Cantona score 25 goals a season, or Yuzi getting 10 or 11, and thinking it's not about the number of goals, it's about the timing of the goals and the venue and the situation and everything like that. And it's almost like he's rewritten the rule book, isn't it, for this kind of, this tally is just incredible, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's not, there's going to be no one anywhere near that, when my time's up. It's not going to happen again for a long, long time. And given how football is and the way that football is changing, I think a lot of it not in a positive way. It's not going to happen again. It isn't going to happen. It'd be interesting in the numbers of games that players are going to play, because players now are maybe getting too tired now to play so many games, and so when they get more and more tired, they get more and more wages as well, because they might get tired. And what do you get if compensation? If you're tired, you get more money, and that means you ain't got to run around as hard, and you take away enthusiasm, and you take away that ambition about to achieve and win things. And when you get dropped, you're happy because you can rest and not be tired.
Need that
But
rest.
you need that rest. Not that I'm really bothered about all this, but no, players are not searching it before. I mean, one of my biggest disappointments, I just didn't think I played enough games. In the end, I looked at it and just didn't play. I wanted to play more. I wanted to win more, and that's no different to Ronaldo. I think Ronaldo again is one of those players who in theory got Fergied, in the sense of he made him hungry. He made him understand that that isn't enough. You can get more. You can sit back on that. You can dine out on it, but after a while, you end up having to pay the tab yourself.
Yeah.
If you just go on and you can keep going and going and going, and that's what he's become. You know, it was easy for Sir Alex. He could have sat back so many times and just lived off what he'd done, but he went as far as he could, and he's just maybe, maybe proven not only being the greatest manager, but maybe the cleverest manager, because he 100% knew when his time was up.
Yeah.
He knew when to stop. And after him and Van Persie got United over the line for that 2013 Premier League title, maybe one of the poorest Manchester United sides to win that title. That's what I believe. I believe not nowhere near. You couldn't put them near any other Man United team that won that Premier League title. That title was won by Van Persie and the boss. They're the ones who got them over. That's over that finishing line in the end. So Sir Alex got out when he knew how it was getting more and more difficult to manage in the fashion that he managed, because of the mentality of the players who were coming through.
Yeah.
He knew he just couldn't get what he wanted out of them. He knew that some of them wouldn't be able to deal with him. He knew that they'd be crying off all the time. So he stepped away from it, and he's been proven right to come away from it, because you've seen it. We saw what happened to Arsene Wenger when he tried to stay in there, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
And they called him the professor. God knows what you call Sir Alex if he's called a professor.
Yeah. Ronaldo obviously the exception, and you see the younger, which is still there, which is evident in the second goal.
I think you need that as many games you want to play. There's players out. Look at Ibrahimovic. He's had that as well.
Yeah.
There's that hunger. There's that being selfish, that you want more and more, and that's why he's angry and he gets frustrated with players, because he's seen people who are not like him, and he's playing football and he's saying, "But how can you beat? You're playing football. Surely you want to play. Surely you want to win." And that's what it is. And that's, for me, that's football. That's why in every one of my era, we ran around in the garden. We played against kids in the street, played against our brothers. Every time cup finals, we would kick, we were kicking about just before it. Half time, we'd be kicking, playing. After the game, we'd be kicking about. And they're all the things we do. When you get the opportunity to get to a club, and then you go, and you're there, you want then all the other things. You want the FA Cup.
Yeah.
You want to play for your country. Now I want to play in the Champions League, and you kind of go, what about playing for your club and winning? You want to win things. Yes, you want to play in Champions League, but surely you must want to play for your country. It's just amazing. I never said I wanted to play in a European Cup. I wanted to play for the biggest team possible, and I want to play in an FA Cup, and and I want to play for my country.
Yeah.
Nothing. That's what the head's gone round. It's been pushed into people's head now about the Champions League. It's virtually bigger than representing your country. So Ronaldo's flipped it. To be honest, he's done fantastic.
Yeah, it's about it's profile and brand and exposure. Ronaldo, it's funny that you say that, because all of those things do apply to Ronaldo in terms of wanting to be in the Champions League. But his incentive is different. It's different because he wants to keep adding the numbers. And Sam, we'll talk about Atletico in a moment, but just to close on the Spurs game, the third goal, the header that wins the game. Obviously, a rarity because it's a goal from a corner anyway. I know that we got one at Leeds recently, but Paul, I keep watching this hat trick back, and the more I watch the third goal, I'm more impressed with the header than I am with the shot in the first half. I see it's just extraordinary how he's throwing off a couple of challenges and then arches his head, and to get the power in and the way that it flies in the top corner as well. It's again Ronaldo doing Ronaldo things.
Yeah, well, I mean, we saw him score so many goals like that for Real Madrid. That's when everyone saw the strength of him, where he's heading with Real Madrid.
Yeah,
That's when that's when he changed his game, didn't he, at Real Madrid
yeah,
more than anything? Come from the touchline, stepped inside, and he reinvented himself playing in that role.
yeah,
Not, I don't know, I wouldn't want to call it as a centre forward because he doesn't play as a centre forward. He's nowhere near being a centre. There's nothing about his game that suggests he wants to be a centre forward. He
yeah,
wants to still be facing the goal, but obviously from a central area. But his leap and the way he can just get that extra little bit of hanging there, it seems like he extends his neck a
yeah,
lot of the times. And to be honest, he hasn't had many of those opportunities in the box. What's going on? And again, he's playing against Spurs, and the way people are defending now, they're not looking at the ball, they're looking at the players. It's about blocking people off and people throwing themselves to the floor, trying to get penalties all the time. So get fouls so they can stop the play and things. But I mean that was him to a T, and you are right about that. It was a wonderful header, and to be honest, he got what he deserved out of it because I think someone said he had 8 efforts and goal or something, and
yeah,
there's like five on target or something, five
yeah,
on. So he's made his own luck. He's earned the right, and Tottenham gave him that space. He's never had that much space in all the
no,
games
that's
he's
true.
played. Never
Yeah,
had that space, and what it was, he took up the opportunity. So now it's going to make other teams want to work even harder because they know it's still there now. They know
yeah,
it's there if he's given space. If you make it hard for him, it's harder for him to earn that space as he did many years ago. But still, you just know if you can just get and play with a little bit more common sense and put balls in areas when he's facing goal, he is desperate to break records and extend records.
yeah. Well, he's broken it now. He's out on his own, and you've got the feeling that he wants to add to that legacy.
Yeah.
And he will, and he will. He will. How long that stays at United, I don't know, but there is a special joy in seeing that because I mean you've now seen a player trying to make a statement to become the best ever, and yeah, maybe it's about numbers, but he wants the trophies as well, and I don't know. It's a complicated mess whether or not the Ronaldo package in its entirety is a positive thing for United. But obviously, that's going to depend on the kind of players that we move out and the players that we bring in. Because if you get the right players in who create the spaces, then they might do enough for Ronaldo. Like it's not always about the opponent being timid.
Yeah.
There's a few things. I mean, yeah, you're completely right. It's something that you've noticed on, especially under Rangnick, is that when we're defending corners, every single player is back, and it is all about defending. There's no urgency.
He needs it. To be honest, I think he's trying to play to what the strength of the players he's got, and I think he knows that he needs them all back because he knows how weak his back four is. I was still one of the things that disappointed me was that he never gave Lindelof the opportunity to play with Varane.
Yeah,
That's the that's
that's overdue. By the way, that's definitely overdue.
I,
Lindelof was taken out because of the house invasion, but Maguire's form. Maguire was dropped previous to that. He was actually
yeah,
dropped.
yeah,
So and his form's not improved. And
yeah.
yeah,
Because I mean, I don't know. Cause I'd like to see it, Varane extend himself a bit more. I
yeah,
look at him play. I'm looking at the silly gloves. I'm not getting the gloves. But I don't think he's extended himself. I
mm,
expected to see more of him.
yeah,
And every time I keep watching him, I look at him and I think to myself, yeah, you lived in the pocket of Ramos.
yeah.
Ramos played your game for you, and he's as much as he's got in his trophy cabinet, he's not a leader of men. He
Yeah,
plays
we
within
need to see more,
yeah,
definitely.
he plays within himself, and I'd like to see him and Lindelof together. I don't know if you get that little bit more cuteness with the two of them together. little bit more modern day central part defensive partnership rather than the big brawly kind of non-agile set, centre half as what Harry Maguire is. So I'd just like to see that, just to see how those two look together, and and against somebody like against Atletico, and you think about the first goal that Atletico scored, or the only goal they scored in that first leg, you say to yourself, oh, man, that movement off of João Felix across the front, that movement is something that someone agile and more kind of defensive minded as Lindelof is, he senses danger a little bit better than Harry Maguire. You think yourself, that could make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Closing on the thing, we'll move to Madrid in a second. I wish I could move to Madrid. The hat-tricks, I can't think of many better hat-tricks than that. I've been working with Sammy Mack for the last year and a bit, and I've always been saying to him, like I said it recently to him as well, the hat-trick he scored against Wolves on the day that Brian Robson signed, it's up there. I've always been saying I can't think of many better hat-tricks. You got Rooney's debut hat-trick, which is quality, Berbatov's hat-trick against Liverpool, but really that's remembered for the acrobatic goal that he scored rather than the other two. And now Ronaldo scores this one. It's the first, whenever you get an hat-trick, the likelihood is if you get a really good goal and then a second really good goal, the third one, which the tap-in, you're always going to get like a lesser goal, but it's up there. It's up there with one of the greatest hat-tricks that in United history for sure. And you're going to need Ronaldo in that kind of form tomorrow. 1-1 from the first leg. No away goal to worry about. So shouldn't be quite so intimidated. It is, you would expect, because of the nature of who Simeone is, that he's going to put in a classic Simeone resolute rearguard display. Not because they can't attack, because we've seen that they can definitely attack, and we can see that if they want to attack, we're perfectly happy to be vulnerable about it. But I always remember the game they played at Liverpool a couple of years ago, and and they played that system to a T, and then they won. Did they win in extra time against them at Liverpool? But you know that they can do it. You know that they're capable of doing it. And again, it's kind of like the stage for Ronaldo. Now he's hit this. He's hit form again. He's got on the goal trail again. It's kind of like the stage is set for him, right? That's the positive way of looking at this. But I don't know. I look at this and I think, because it's level and because there's no away goals, I don't know if that raises the jeopardy of it because of the way that they play.
Yeah, it's maybe three more seasons down the line of Champions League, that being that the way go. I maybe have a little bit more, but it's trying to relate to it now, because that always gave games the edge. It always made something about it. It gave you some more to talk about it. Now, would everyone be that little bit more positive in the game because of what's gone on? Yeah. With United being at 1-1, but would it have been 1-1? Would Atletico have played the game different after going 1-0 up with the away goal? If the away goals rule had been there, would they have been different in their approach, or not their approach? If they'd have gone 1-0 up, would they have sat that little bit more? Thought that's enough. We're not going to give anything away. We don't really know. So we go into this game, we don't know. The one thing is, though, you saw Atletico. They're a good side. They're not the Atletico of years ago. Yes, they still can be. So, they're still quite defensive minded, and they've got the jailer on the touchline who will be rattling the keys, threatening all of them. That will lock them up if they don't defend properly. But they have got the individuals who can make and score goals. So it's just about who's he going to play and I think you do need a Fred in there. You do need his legs in there, because it's going to be about getting the ball, because United are not going to keep the ball. Even though Atletico are not a keep ball side as much.
Yeah, they want United to have the ball. But
United, even if they give it to them, they'll give it back the way they play. But Fred is one of them who'll get around, he'll get close to people, and he will cause a problem. It's about how he's going to do it. And that was a question mentioned earlier. It's a team about Fernandes, playing without Fernandes. And I looked at that. I looked what he had in there, and I think to myself, if you maybe had someone with maybe more legs than Matic in there, and that you would have turned around and said that's a reasonable midfield, not a great Manchester United midfield, but it's a midfield that can get around the park,
Yeah.
up and around the park. And Fred proved that on his own he could do it. So there is some way when you look at it about Fernandes, because Fernandes he's one of those players that I think he winds everyone up. He affects the team in the wrong way sometimes, and as
Yeah.
mentioned with his antics, the way he carries on, he gets the referees back up, and if you're playing with someone like that, I mean, what you're looking for from your captain sometimes is when he's there, when he's doing that, you need a captain go across and say, get up, stop doing that. You're affecting us. You're stopping the game. Your dramas. You're affecting the referee.
Yeah.
Get on with it. Stay on your feet. And if someone tackles you and it's not given a foul, go back, win the ball back, stop them going forward, and then do it. But don't just sit on the floor complaining and watch us being put under pressure. Stop doing it. It's a team game. So
I saw Ronaldo do that on Saturday. I don't know if it was Tellers. He went over and Ronaldo. If we all remember his first 3 years, he's rich. He's one to talk, but I saw him doing it.
yeah,
And there was a moment when Pogba went down, and he was looking like he was like dead. And Ronaldo was just like getting on with it. And then
yeah,
Pogba eventually just like pulled himself up and got on with it. But yeah, you're right. We do. What can you do when you've got the sort of key creative influences, a player who's got those kind of histrionics, and then the captain is a captain who doesn't accept any responsibility or doesn't really
mm,
dictate any sort of accountability. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing there with that. So yeah, you're right. But Fred's surely got to play because he's played himself in. He's playing his best, definitely since Tuchel. I'll come on to him in a moment. Since Rangnick's arrived, Fred's playing his best football for United. I think that's fair to say. He's got a role for him, and like you said, he's still not convinced in terms of his actual quality. But and maybe that's to do with the players around him as well. But he's certainly been one of the best players since.
Fred's one of the few within that Manchester United squad who I think Rangnick in that style he wanted to play, or this style that he's supposed to be famous for. Fred's the only one who could mostly play in it.
Yeah.
Because he can go out and come back in, and running and getting around the park is quite effortless for him. He can do that. It's easy. Running is easy. He's got a good stride in him, and he's got high energy. And he doesn't go missing. Always wants the ball. And I always say that if he gives it away, he won't go missing. He will go back and try and get it back again and try to rectify his mistake. And they're the kind of players you need when you're having a bit of a poor time as a team. You need someone like him who doesn't go missing. And Fred's definitely one of them.
Yeah. Anthony Williams makes a good comment in the comment section. They says, "I win. A long-standing criticism of this United team is that they don't seem to communicate with each other. Rangnick has tried to get the players listening to his instructions. Is that a lack of trust?" It could be. Paul, it's an interesting one because the key word is always going to be accountability and responsibility, and we have sort of talked about this many times where the transference of that happened, whether it was Mourinho sort of going, oh, well, we're not trying the league, we'll just go for the Europa League. When it happened, when this culture kicked in of thing, whether it's to do with a social media presence, what do you think? Is it a lack of trust? Is it a key? Is it a key point there that Anthony's saying that the players they've got to learn to trust the manager? Or I mean, what is it? What's that fundamental thing there that's missing?
See, trust is a word that's come into football. It's popped up in football like closing down on a low block, pressing, I should say, on a low block. In other words, you're sitting deep. People have tried to, embellish everything and make it sound more orientated to FIFA, playing FIFA. I don't know really where it's all come from, but I just think at the end of the day, it's respect. It's not trust. A
Yeah.
manager, someone's asked you to do something, you're a manager as such, or
Yeah.
whatever and you're not doing it. So what you're doing is you're disrespecting him. So then what you are doing, then you're disrespecting your team because you've been asked to do something as a player. You haven't gone and done it. That means you're letting your team down. And that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
I would take a rollicking off of my boss all day long, but I would not want to get a rollicking or lose the faith of the team I'm playing in, because
Yeah.
then that would affect me off the pitch, and that's going to affect my game, and that's going to affect the team as such. And that's the difference now. Is I think players are more individuals than
Yeah.
what they are as team men. They are.
Yeah.
That's the way they are. That's the nature of the beast now. That's the nature of social media. That's the nature of our world today. We are as people more selfish than what we were before. Because
Yeah.
you can't hide the fact there's always selfishness around. You can't hide it. You can't make out it's never been there. But it's got worse. And I don't know if it's because of a lot of it social media, and then added to the fact of 2 years in the twilight zone as such of life and not being able to do everything, and people have just grabbed what they can. But the mentality of the footballers of the top level, the Circus League, has changed. It's as simple as that. You drop down into more and more the British League, the proper league, where you're getting a lot more honesty from the players, and you'll see a different game. You'll see a different caliber of players.
Yeah.
And I think we'll
No,
find that over time that the players who come through from down there and they come into the, as I call it, the Circus League, you'll find they'll be the right fit, because they're honest, and they're playing for their lives. They're playing to get something that they always wanted, was the adulation, the opportunity to play for a bigger club, and then the opportunity to make their lives better. Well, I think a lot of players who have been born into that life haven't got that. They've got it all so early, and they haven't got that same drive, and they don't think they have to listen. They've got parents who may be pushing them their own way for their own devices, and they're not listening anymore. The fact that we've gone to coaches now rather than managers has made a big difference. Players are not confiding in managers anymore, and they're not talking to if they've got problems. They're just, other people are trying to do this and do that. So the
yeah.
moment a player's got a problem, if they're not running to their parents, they're running to their agent, and they're asking their agent to speak to an owner. Where before you had a chairman. A chairman was kind of a local person, someone who's worried about his team, his community as such, and that's all gone now. So football, the long and short of it, what I should have said, football, I should say the top level football has come away from the working class, gone into middle class.
Yeah. It's a good assessment. Very thorough, and I agree with every word. But before we wrap up, very interesting thing to just sort of touch on a little bit, because we don't know how it's going to unfold. We don't know how impacted Chelsea are going to be. But you talked about people getting what they can, and certainly vultures will be circling over, and they'll be looking at what's happening at Chelsea and the financial situation. And Tuchel's already come out and said that he's committed for the rest of the season. Um, you don't know what's going to happen in terms of the administration. If they're going to suffer administration, if this is going to, obviously they can't renew contracts. We know that, so that means the likes of Rudiger, he's already basically looking for a place to go. But you look through some of those players, Paul, and if they're available for comparative peanuts, I mean, United would be silly to not be looking at this very closely. I mean, Reece James would be an outstanding, because he's probably the best right back in the league this season. I think he's just been unbelievable. So you've got him. Rudiger is a no-brainer because he's got that kind of leadership quality that you've talked about. Perhaps not in the commanding way that a Ramos has got it, but he definitely charges with the ball a little bit.
Ryan, do you want to make this easier?
Yeah.
Just rather than, you don't know names, just say maybe 60% of those players would be good for Manchester United. That's the better way of going around it, rather than go with individuals. Because
I was going to go for three. I was going to go Rudiger, James, and Kante. But regardless of the players, the main one that everyone's talking about is Tuchel, because he's the manager, because he's German, because he's one of these managers that leads this kind of system that Rangnick is favouring. And that's the question that Ben's asking: would he be a good fit for United? And there must be a good chance that he becomes available, not just because of the finances, but because of the pressure that he's being put under. No manager will want to be in that situation.
yeah,
So, is that? I mean, everyone's been talking about Pochettino. Everyone's been talking about Ten Hag. Is really the Chelsea man the one that we should be going for?
the thing about it though is that there's a lot of Manchester United fans who jump onto everything, and they look at names and they've got their reasons behind this and behind that. But it's still the biggest problem is you bring in Tuchel and then he still has to work with the people up above. Is that
Yeah,
going to make any difference? Everyone was screaming and shouting about Mourinho. He's going to do this now. He's this. He's a winner. He was a winner ages ago. If you bring in Sir Alex, you could brought in Sir Alex Ferguson and said exactly the same about him. But football has evolved. Mourinho, Mourinho didn't evolve. He's still living in the old way of trying to manage and carrying on from what was years ago. I said my bit about him. I just thought everything, and it wasn't a football point of view of him. It was a
yeah,
personality. His personality wasn't right for Manchester United. It wasn't going to work because of the way he is. We'd seen that previous, but still fell into that trap. God knows who was in the ear of the owners to go and bring him in. Someone told him, and it was completely wrong for Manchester United to have brought him in. And the problem is, he's stuck in the history of Manchester United, which is a shame, in my opinion. But Tuchel, it'd be no different. Good manager, definitely proven. Yes, got everything. Chelsea suited him because he could go out and get the players that he felt he needed to do it. I don't think he brought Lukaku though. I think it's
yeah,
almost obvious he didn't. Brian just didn't. Lukaku never come into it. That was a club thing. Must have been. But if he was to come to United, it would have to be the best way. There's no point in like. Well, if you look at Tuchel, you go out and buy yourself the most expensive suit ever, £1,000 suit, and then you put on a pair of shoes that cost you a tenner. So I'm saying you bring in a Tuchel with all his managerial experience, all that he's achieved, then you turn around and say, "There's your squads, and what can I bring in? Well, maybe we can give you 80 million, maybe in January. And
yeah.
what do you want from me? We want guaranteed Champions League football with
No,
this same squad. No, no,
yeah.
you wouldn't come. You wouldn't come to that. You would not walk into that job if you're Tuchel after being at Chelsea. He's
Do you
gone from.
think? Do you think though? Because do you not think that everyone was talking about it? Was it Agbonlahor? He was on Talk Sport, and Agbonlahor was on saying, "Oh, United aren't a big club anymore, and that
Oh,
not the biggest club in the world." Do you not think that even with all that what you've mentioned, which is you can't even argue with it because it's all facts. Do you think that there's still the draw though that he would say it's United? I can't turn it down.
I don't know if that works anymore. I really don't know if that works anymore. I think I just have to turn around and say where he's leaving. He might be coming away. We don't know what's going to happen. There's no guarantees. Everyone's has got their own opinion. Everyone's an expert. Again, another thing that everyone's an expert on is what
War.
happened. The war starts, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden, one of the people who's from whatever country is involved. So the club gets. Everyone knows about a football club who all their finances get frozen. We don't know what's going to happen. There's still a lot of players. They're still under contract.
Yeah.
So even if they were to start next season with what they've got, and they've lost Rudiger and who else, Christensen, I think, is out of
Yeah.
contract.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the line, there's still a lot of people to service there. There's a lot of people who are going to lose their jobs there and justly lose their jobs. I mean, the people like within the club shop.
Yeah.
I'm not on about the millionaire footballers and people like that. I'm on about people who live, that club
Yeah.
shop. One of the small
Absolutely.
things, the suppliers, the people within the ground do that. They're the ones who would bother me. Not so much Tuchel. He'll get something, but
Yeah.
would he be a fit? Yes, he would because he's experienced. The German side of it makes a difference to where United are. But if I was him, maybe not because you are not going to go and even get anywhere near to what you can at Chelsea, what you're doing with Chelsea. You'd have to go and manage in a different way. And
Yeah.
yes, I understand what you're saying about Manchester United. United are a big club, will always be a big club. That's the problem with Agbon Lahore. He doesn't really understand things in that sense. To come out with a statement, they're not a big club anymore. How do you suddenly stop being one? What happened? Someone put a pin in Old Trafford and it goes down. I
That
don't
might
know.
explain the leaks in the roof.
Yeah, but I mean, that's poor to come out and say something like. Have they got the pull they used to have before? No, football's changed now. No great club has got the pull anymore. Players normally gravitate towards a football club and where they're situated in maybe in a country. So if you're a London club, that makes a bit of a difference.
Yeah.
Liverpool and Manchester, yes, they've got big histories. Liverpool at the moment, they're a club that a lot of players will gravitate towards because they've recently won a Premier League, recently won a Champions League. they're kind of competing. If you want adulation at the moment, you think you can get it, you're looking at maybe Liverpool or City, where you're going to get more because they're winning more games. So those things are all going against United at this moment in time. United have to change the way they're financing on the pitch to go and draw in a big manager for him, because he's got to save his own face. He doesn't want himself being tarnished going into maybe the melting pot of Old Trafford.
Oh yeah. It's a massive appointment, and they've got it. Yeah, it's a big few months for United. Starting with tomorrow's game against Atletico Madrid. But then at the weekend, because Liverpool, there's been a clash, so I think that they're still in the cup or something. So we're not at Anfield this weekend. So there'll be no podcast next week because we'll wait until the next one to cover the Atletico Madrid game. So that's it. If you've enjoyed the pod, give us a like and subscribe to the channel as well. Always appreciate that. If you're watching the replay, join in the comments section, and we do reply to them. If you're listening back on the audio podcast, please be sure to review us on there and give it a subscribe on there as well. Thanks a lot for listening, guys, and watching. We'll be back next week, and until then, stay safe, stay well.